What's up, guys? I am back in Los Angeles. I just wanted to share some of the observations that I had when I first arrived here to the US. The diversity of everybody was the thing that first shocked me, right? So I remember I got off the plane in Miami and I saw in the waiting room there was a guy in a rabbi's uniform next to Asian people, also next to Latin people. And I think that just perfectly sums up what the American experience is like. And I think it's a good and bad thing because it's cool that we have so many different cultures, but it's bad because we have no idea how to assimilate with each other. Even though I was born here in America, I will always be Asian. Whereas if you go to a place like Colombia, it doesn't matter if you're white, black, or even if you're Asian, right? If you were born there, you are Colombian. The thing that I noticed right away with the people here, Americans complain about everything. I would notice in a place like in Colombia, because people kind of expect things to kind of be broken or the bureaucracy or whatever. When something bad happens, they're just kind of like, all right, what are we gonna do? Whereas here in America, the people are always just like, no, this needs to be better. I need to complain. Let me talk to a superior. We need to fix this. We need to fix this. It is just so comfortable here, for better or for worse, that any small inconvenience, people make the biggest scene about. We're just so soft here. And I think it's because we have life so good that people are always looking for a reason to complain about shit. You watch the movie WALL-E, right? And you see those people in their comforts, how they're all fat, they're all in their chairs and they're watching TVs and everything. That's how I see America in a lot of ways. First off, the population actually does look like that. The obesity is ridiculous. I like the WALL-E metaphor so much because that's what the people are like. It's their muscles aren't really that good and just kind of walking around. Colombians are extremely proud and happy to be Colombians, though they go through all their problems in the country. And a lot of people complain about the government. In general, I feel like Colombians are very, very happy. But there's this weird sentiment that we always are expecting more. We are always expecting better. Nothing is ever good enough. We always have to complain about something. And it seems to be a general thing amongst all races that were born here in the US. I mean, maybe it's just Miami and LA. The one thing that I really realize is how consumer the US is. I feel like everywhere we go, we're always just being constantly sold to from brands. Everything is sponsored, everything is brand, ads for everything. They're just always in your face. It's no wonder people are always constantly buying products because the way the society is set up, it's always about trying to make more money, try to sell you something, trying to sell you something. Americans, I definitely agree, are the biggest consumers in the world. Products are very, very cheap for us. For example, in Colombia, toothpaste relatively for them costs $25, whereas for us it's $3, $4. Electronics computers, consumer items that are very, very cheap, but things like rent, healthcare is extremely expensive here, and even healthy food is very expensive here, whereas in other countries it's not. That's why our culture is centered around having the newest gadget, having the newest this. So if you guys are thinking about moving out of the US to Colombia, my Moving to Colombia course is now out. I talk about everything that you need to build a new life for yourself in Colombia from the ground up without knowing anybody or knowing Spanish. If you guys are interested in that, there's a special discount code for the first 15 people that buy it. Or if you guys just want to hit me up for a consultation, email me or DM me here and we can talk about that as well. It is very impressive though coming into the US, and I now understand if you, let's say you were a foreigner, right? And you come from a country like Colombia where you have cities in kind of the middle of nowhere and it's cool, but it's still a fairly, I wouldn't say third world country. I would say Colombia is a second world country because it has a lot of modern amenities, but it still has a lot of third world problems as well. And you're flying into Miami or Los Angeles and you just see the infrastructure of the cities. Everybody has a house, a lot of space, the way all the cities are set up, everything just makes sense structurally, right? That's a good thing and a bad thing because you need to have a car to do pretty much anything here. I was watching this guy's video, which I pretty much stole his idea. So if you're watching this, appreciate you, bro. How career matters a lot here as well. It's kind of weird to me that when you meet somebody, one of the first things that they'll ask you is what you do, as if that's the most important thing. A lot of conversations center around career, what university you went to, and all those things. Whereas in a place like Colombia, career is not that big of a deal. Maybe in a place like Bogota, but in general, it's about how you are as a person. But I think it's these comforts that have made Americans into very weak-minded people. In Colombia, I feel a lot of men are still very traditionally masculine, but then I come here to the US and it feels the complete opposite. It feels like men here are extremely demasculated. The only men that I've seen that are pretty real traditional men, a lot of them are immigrants, coming from the Caribbean or Africa or Asia or from Latin America, right? I saw a couple of these girls in the airport that were coming from Colombia, and when they spoke Spanish, they had a certain personality, but as soon as they swapped to English, they just were talking so hard or so masculine. I don't know how to explain it, man. There's just something in the way that people talk here, where the men talk very feminine and the women talk extremely masculine. When we were going through Miami, we were going through the airport. There was like no good masculine leadership. When I was leaving Pereira Airport in Colombia, everything was extremely organized, and I felt like I didn't have any issues there. And then I came here and it just felt like chaos. There were a lot of female workers that would just seem so overwhelmed with the chaos of everything, didn't know how to organize things and direct the people, and people were getting into fights. The TSA workers seemed like they didn't really care. It was just like a whole entire mess, man. I don't know what's going on, man. It really feels like every time I come back to the US, male population gets more feminized and there's like no good male leadership anymore. Everywhere I go, it seems like women are always leading everything. You guys know how I feel about that. I personally think that the men should be in charge because things get done like better, more organized, and it's more about logic than it is about feelings. I'm really open about my opinions on my channel. I come here to America and I'm just like, I just don't want to share what I think about things. Not because I'm scared of what people will say. I just don't want to be out here fighting with people. I just don't think it's worth it. Also, is it just me or does it feel like everything's about like fear mongering now? Every time I put on the news, it doesn't matter what it is, CNN, Fox News, ABC News, the regular news, it feels like all of the media here is meant to divide us. Journalism has become polarized, it's become politicized. That's where all the clicks are. It's just trying to like get you as aggravated and annoyed as much as possible. I notice on Facebook, a lot of the things that you'll see are purposely controversial to try to get you to engage. So they're essentially monetizing our anger. I also find it interesting that mental health is such a big problem here in the US, because if you really compare the problems that we have here in the US to a place like Afghanistan or Colombia or maybe China, you know, some of those other places, on paper we have such a better life here. But I think just the way the culture is, or because of the fear mongering as well, we shelter our kids so much we don't let them go out and be free. In Colombia, you'll see that in most cities, most of the kids are out in the street playing football until whatever time at night. You know, people are out there, they get to experience a childhood. Whereas here, you need a car to get anywhere. You can't just go on the street and play with the neighborhood kids. A lot of the childhoods now are in front of screens. We're just spending so much time in front of social media. And it almost feels like mental health is like promoted here in a lot of ways. I go to Colombia, I only know one girl that actually suffered from like mental health issues, and that's because when she was growing up, she grew up in a pueblo where she saw a lot of people get killed. So she has a lot of PTSD that she's still dealing from with that. But here it seems that mental health is like glorified. Nobody cares about church or spirituality anymore. It's all about, no, you're just depressed. Here's some medication to help you fix that, right? It's about sedating yourself. Look to pills, yoga, to money, and to women or to porn to help you fill these gaps that you have in your heart. When I think a lot of that can be filled with not just religion, but with community and being close to nature and being able to live like an actual life. I respect the US in a lot of ways. This is definitely a great place to do business. It's amazing. Like, the American dream is such a beautiful thing, and I do believe it is possible. In the pursuit for money and for material goods, you sacrifice a lot of culture, you sacrifice a lot of like people skills. It was just weird feeling, man. When I was in line and everybody with all the different races and everything, it just felt like everybody kind of kept to themselves. Didn't feel like there was any sense of unity. Everybody was polite to each other, but not in the way where we feel united. More of just kind of like, oh, I don't want to offend you. Everybody is here for like selfish reasons. And I think the US is a very selfish country in a lot of ways, and the culture almost promotes us to be as selfish as possible. There's no sense of higher self, something greater than us. Because of that, the US will always be a very divided country. That's probably the biggest reason why I can't be here. It just feels like so polarized and so divided. Do you guys agree? Do you guys disagree? Am I crazy? Let me know down below. Cheers.